What's up you guys, Mo Awesome from Awesome MTB and welcome to the Awesome MTB Trail Bike Buyer's Guide. I mean, Ibis bikes, I definitely think do that better. What's up you guys, Mo Awesome from Awesome MTB and welcome back to the Awesome MTB Trail Bike Buyer's Guide. Over the last few months, we've been testing out 11 of the best trail bikes on the market. Now these are 29ers with 140 to 150 millimeters of travel, and the goal of this series is to make your next bike purchase a lot more informative by breaking down each one of these bikes and showcasing who each is for. Now in this video, we're gonna be breaking down the brand new Ibis Ripmo. Now this is gonna be the V3 version, so it's gonna look a lot different than the last one. We have a lot of changes, and this is also at the end of our travel spectrum. So it has 150 millimeters of rear travel, 160 millimeters of travel up front, and a slacker 64.5-degree head angle than the previous version of the Ripmo. Now before we get into this review, I just wanna give a huge thank you to Jensen USA who is sponsoring this video. If you didn't know, Jensen USA is one of the largest online bike shops out there and they are awesome. They have so many bikes and parts in stock ready to ship to you with same-day shipping. Their prices are incredible and their customer service is second to none. They are rider-owned and have been around for 30 years, so they know how important it is to not only get the best deals, but also keep the time off the bike to a minimum. So like I said, they offer same-day shipping and their customer service is backed by gear advisors to help make picking the right item or bike out very simple. And like I said, their prices are incredible. Some of the best deals in the industry, and I personally love playing around with their online bike builder because like I said, they have so many rad brands to choose from. The customization options are endless and we can't recommend Jensen USA enough. I'll put a link to Jensen USA in the description of this video. Once again, you guys, they are one of the largest Ibis dealers in the nation and the customer service there is insane. Highly recommend them. So like I said, this is the current iteration of the Ripmo that was recently released, and this thing got a full redesign. So now we have that straight top tube, and I think overall this bike looks very clean. Now I went with a size large, which is gonna be very different from all of the other bikes in this test, which I went with an XL. However, Ibis recently redid their sizing. They actually added a size extra medium, and looking at the geo chart, the geo of a size large is in theory going to be the same as an extra large. Actually, in some cases, the reach of the Ibis Ripmo on Ibis's geo chart is actually going to be even larger than a majority of XL bikes I typically run. Now, I think Ibis wants you to rethink sizing, and we'll get into all of that in a little bit and why I think I made a mistake there. Now, they sent over their XT build for testing. So up front, we have a Fox 36 fork with a grip X dampener with 160 millimeters of travel, and in the rear, we have a Fox Float X. For the drivetrain, we have a 1x12 Shimano XT drivetrain. For brakes, we have Shimano XT brakes. We have Ibis's stock handlebars, as well as Ibis's stock grips. We have a bike yoke dropper post with a WTB Silverado saddle. And for wheels, we actually have Ibis's own Blackbird Send wheels. These are alloy wheels with a Maxxis Assegai in the front and a Minion DHR2 in the rear. And of course, we have our tried and true Crank Brothers Stamp 7 pedals in a size large. And this build actually comes in at about 33.38 pounds with pedals. Yeah, as I mentioned, I do feel like I made a mistake when it came time for sizing. However, I don't necessarily think it was my fault. I don't think it's Ibis's fault either. We'll get into that a little bit later on, but first let's take this bike out on the trails and see how it rides. Today we have an on-trail review of the Ibis Ripmo. Now this is the new Ripmo, the V3, I believe. And I've actually had the previous 2 generations of Ripmo, so I feel like I have a good understanding of this chassis. This is the chunky portion of our test. And you know, Ibis has to be one of the companies out there that somehow can make 29-inch wheels feel so much more nimble than they are on the down while keeping the rollover. Chunkiest section. Now the Ripmo has a much appreciated slacker head angle in this iteration. And honestly, you guys, the control through steeps is super awesome. I feel like this is probably the first year that the Ripmo has truly gone into that all mountain kind of category, and you feel it from the frame. Now, I'm gonna touch on some things when it comes to sizing. I'm not necessarily fully convinced that the numbers on paper are what I would be. This is a size large, like I mentioned earlier. It's actually the only large in the test, because if you look at the geo chart, all indicators point me towards this being the right size frame. However, with that being said, definitely feels, I think, at the end of the day, like a large, which is interesting. Now we are climbing right now. It's an Ibis, so it's gonna be an amazing climber. I will say this iteration of DW Link on this Ibis, a little bit more active in the initial stroke. I think this DW Link has to be one of my favorite iterations of it on the Ibis Cycles platform. And as you guys could tell, climbing wise, it's an Ibis, loving it. For technical climbing here, where you want to time the pedal strokes, definitely have a higher BB on the new Ripmo. And you do notice it on kind of these more techie, twisty climbs. Man, this thing is a great technical climber. I'll say, very similar to my notes earlier, high speed stability are interesting on this bike. So I really do like the slacker head angle, and I love the suspension feel from the new iteration DW Link they have on here. With that being said, Ibises haven't necessarily always been known for high speed stability. They've definitely been some of the more nimble 29ers on the market. I do still think, even through that, man, I feel like the reach numbers that you're seeing on paper aren't necessarily translating to the trail. Still think I might appreciate an XL over a large, even though the reach numbers and the wheelbase, as well as the top tube length, are bigger than most other bikes in this test. I just think this is gonna be one of those bikes that you're gonna wanna try out in person before committing to a size. Oh, another thing, Ibis bikes are known for being poppy in and out of corners. That is no short on this one. All right, through here, we're gonna do our little speed generating test where we just use the trill to pump off. Classic DW Link, passes the test with flying colors. We'll say another thing that is pretty interesting about this bike is I do feel like it does have this balance spot that might not necessarily be super intuitive right off of the get-go, but as soon as you figure out, it is freaking awesome. Oh my God. The frame feels so stout. That's another improvement to this bike I think a lot of riders will appreciate. About to get into the super gnar section right down here. God, SoCal needs rain so bad. All right, coming on through. We're gonna try and just focus so we don't lose any teeth. Super chunky. Oh yeah, the Ripmo feels at home. Probably the most comfortable feeling Ibis bike I've ridden through chunk. And man, so confident inspiring. I will say though, I think I'm an XL. I don't think I'm a large. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that ride on this brand new Ibis Ripmo. Now I've actually been on all iterations of the Ripmo. I had V1, I had V2, and now I have V3 for the time being. And with that being said, I feel like each iteration of the Ripmo, it just keeps getting better. The first thing that I love about the bike is how it looks. I feel like the new frame design looks awesome. It's such a clean looking frame. I love the straight top tube. And yeah, overall, I feel like it was a huge improvement aesthetics wise. And yeah, I think the looks of the Ripmo are pretty awesome. Another thing that I love about this iteration of the Ripmo is how stable it feels out on the trails. I feel like the previous two iterations were very playful and very Ibis-like. I feel like this iteration of the Ripmo is the first time you get a little bit more composure in high speed sections, and yet it feels like a very stable bike. Now I'm gonna take it back to the HD6 that I demoed earlier this year. I feel like it shares very similar characteristics when it comes to how this bike feels out on the trails. It's just a much more stable feeling ride while being out there, while retaining that Ibis feel, because at the end of the day, it is an Ibis, and their bikes tend to be a little bit more on the playful side. That gets into the next thing that I love about the Ibis Ripmo, and that's how playful it is. Once again, you guys, Ibis is known for making some of the most playful 29ers out there, and that's no difference when it comes time for the Ripmo. I feel like in and out of corners, that short rear end with that Ibis DW Link pop feels amazing out on the trails. And I really do feel like it's an amazing combo to have a little bit more of a stable feeling Ripmo, but at the same time too, retain the playful nature of a DW Link Ibis approach. I also like that the bottom bracket isn't too low. The bike itself is very stable from that slacker front end, but you still get a little bit more control over your line choice, like I said, going a little bit higher with that BB and having a shorter rear end. I feel like it's a very good do everything geometry approach. Also new for the Ibis Ripmo this year is you get internal frame storage, and it also comes with two really awesome bags. I believe it's Cotopaxi. Yeah, those bags are really awesome, and it's nice to see the Ibis Ripmo getting internal frame storage. Now, let's get into some things that I didn't necessarily love about the Ibis Ripmo, and this is going to be going back to that mistake that I made. Once again, you guys, looking at the geo chart alone, this bike has a reach as well as a top tube length that is as large as some of my other XL bikes, if not larger than some other bikes in this test. Now, I will say after riding this bike over the last few weeks, I really don't feel like those reach numbers are making sense to me. I feel like this is probably going to be the shortest feeling bike in this test. And I mean, at the end of the day, you'll probably be like, Mo, yeah, it feels like that because it's a large. Well, if you look at that geo chart between this and the Specialized Stumpy and the S5, I think has a reach that's actually going to be a little bit shorter than the Ibis Ripmo size large. And that's pretty crazy because that S5 Stumpy is probably one of the biggest feeling bikes out of the test. Now, with that being said, I definitely understand that Ibis is trying to go for a little bit different approach to geo, and maybe they want you to take some other things into consideration. They also added that extra size, the extra medium, because a majority of their riders fell in between medium and large. So that is something to note there, that if you're a rider out there going purely based off of the geo chart, I definitely think you might want to either consider consulting someone like Jensen USA. The staff over there can really make sure you're on the right size, or try to attend a demo, because this is definitely going to be one of those bikes where you're either going to want to try out or get some help when it comes time for sizing. Another thing that I didn't necessarily love about this iteration of the Ibis Ripmo is it definitely feels a little bit heavier out on the trails. I mean, at the end of the day, the bike did get a little bit burlier. I did appreciate that when it came time for the downhills. I definitely could see getting this bike down to a weight that I would want being a little bit more difficult, but yeah, that is something to note there. It is a little bit on the heavier side. Now, in regards to the build, I actually do think that Ibis Ripmo crushed the XT build. I love these alloy Ibis wheels. I think these are going to be some of the best stock alloy wheels on the market. It's nice that they're on the wider side. I feel like you really are getting something unique with their stock wheels. I love that bike yoke dropper post. I love their stock carbon handlebars, especially the fact that they are adjustable widthwise without having to trim them. I'm not necessarily a biggest fan of the stock Ibis grips, as well as that saddle, but I think those things are going to be very easy to swap out. Now, once again, you guys, we're going to link this build in the description, as well as how I personally would build up my own Ibis Ripmo. So to summarize things up, who is the Ibis Ripmo for? I think if you're a rider out there that you want to tackle some gnarly terrain, but at the same time too, you still want a very playful feel from your bike, I think this is a very good combination of both worlds. You get that stability from a beefier frame and a little bit more of an aggressive geometry, but at the same time too, it is an Ibis at the end of the day. So a playful approach from the suspension that's really going to help make this thing feel both stable as well as poppy out on the trails. Now, riders who might be 100% focused on high-speed stability might want to look elsewhere, or if you're a rider out there that maybe want a little bit of a lighter profile trail bike, there are some other options that might be a little bit more well-suited to your needs. How did this bike compare to other bikes in this test? That is something that you guys are gonna have to wait for the conclusion of this series, but if we didn't answer any of your questions about the Ibis Ripmo, definitely leave us a comment below, we'll help you out, or better yet, like we said, hit up the pros at Jensen USA. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel, not miss out on any more reviews, and until next time, you guys, ride awesome. You.